Hey, Q here. So it's close to Easter time when I'm recording this, so I thought me and the chicks could do a little bit about culture. And this, I've dressed up in quite a lot of ways in quite a lot of culture events, and God willing, I'm going to do that again after the current crisis is past, so I figure no need to take myself too seriously. So someone from the National Coalition Party, Kokoomus, that I'm representing, doesn't often speak about culture. It's not really been our thing. And I got interested in it, and I was very much involved in writing a culture program for the election too. Oddly enough, there wasn't much of a rush there. There weren't many takers when they were asking for interested people. Who knows? Well, I was there. And a few things I wrote there. And I have like 3 key pointers first I'd like to go through with you. The first one is a city or municipality cannot create culture. It can just create the conditions for culture to create itself, or for culture to happen. And this is something that I heard from Mr. Perttu Pesä. He is a longtime representative of the Green Party, and this is also to make a point that while I'm now bringing our party, so to speak, into the culture discussion and giving a new viewpoint, this is not a war between parties. This is like a new viewpoint, one more voice to the crowd, but definitely not something that all these previous parties, they've done it all wrong and we're just going to fix everything and change everything. No. But anyway, Mr. Pesä invited me representing a certain culture event, and we had a little event there and talking. And one of the things he said, pretty much the key thing he said there was, now you guys keep doing that event of yours in your own way. Don't let us, the municipality, start doing it. If we do it, it'll just be a hugely lot more expensive and it won't be nearly as great. Not word to word, but that was the key point there. And you'll note that I'm not naming the event or organization because I don't want to do name dropping. I've been involved in a lot of events and cultural organizations, but none of them are my own creations. They're team efforts, so I'm not going to be taking the credit here. But anyways, that was the point, like, don't let the city do it, please, you guys do it. And that stuck in my mind and kind of confirmed this thought that I've had for a long time, that culture should really be let happen. Okay, point number 2. Let's assume the COVID situation has passed here, and let's talk about the summer 2 years from now. The most important culture event of that summer is the one that we cannot name yet. Very few, if any of us, can name what the greatest thing is going to be at that time. And that's the whole point. Culture is changing. There are new things coming all the time, new events, new thoughts, new plans. It's changing, and we cannot be stuck on only what we have so far. We have to be sure that there's always room for new ideas, new events, new stuff going on. And that's one very important part. Okay, point number 3. This doesn't translate that well, but in Finnish it's just 3 simple words that make the point, but it's something like for those who experience and those who do, creators and the audience, basically. What I'm going at is experiencing culture is great. Now we're talking usually about traditional cultural institutions. So we have our museums and theaters and theaters and theaters. And I'm not at war with them, don't worry. I think we have good stuff to offer in those. And we know nowadays, medically speaking, that experiencing culture can heal you. It has a good effect on your health. I mean, please do listen to your doctor, but this is a part of the solution for living a good life. So that's one part, but there's the doers part. Now we know there's a lot of people working in culture. We talk about that a lot, but I'd like to take that a little further. There is a lot of volunteer work in culture events. I've been involved in several, and there are cases when a single event can bring around 1,000 volunteers year by year. Of course, in international events, there are even bigger ones, but volunteering in culture and also in other areas can be very beneficial to the person. Now it doesn't have those problems as the unpaid work practice that too many are familiar with. This is not competing with businesses, and it's something you want to do, something you really jump into. And we've learned over the years that, for example, there are people that have some challenges in life, don't belong, or may have some mental health issues. This can be part of the solution in helping these people, letting them do this kind of volunteer work. It's been known to be very beneficial. And in other ways too, it can be very beneficial in learning very important new skills, even getting a job. That's happened more than once that I've seen. So remembering when we're talking about funding culture and supporting culture, it's a lot more than just sitting at that theater. There's a lot more around it, a lot more activity. So these 3 points are something that I feel kind of guide my thoughts in culture politics. But I would also like to talk to you a little bit about metrics. The sad fact of the matter is there is never enough money for culture, and there never is going to be, I fear. So there is not going to be enough for everyone. But in these cases, we need to be very sure that we get most out of the money. Now, I mentioned the speech that Mr. Perttu Pesa gave earlier, and I think it came from something that I've experienced myself. Now, I've worked in hundreds of culture events, organizations, clubs for municipalities, museums, various organizations, state-owned, city-owned, privately held, and I've also held public positions in operating culture events. And I have noticed, now I'm giving you 2 examples here. There is culture event A here, okay, and this has a weekend event once a year, brings in 10,000 people. Culture event B also has a weekend event once a year, brings in 10,000 people. Culture event A here, it gets 10,000 from the city. Culture event B gets 100,000. Now, of course, this is an example, but I found that the difference can be even 20-fold in very similar typed culture events. Which obviously brings to the point that what you do with the money, there are a lot of differences. We can't compare them directly. There are, of course, various reasons why some would use less or need less or more public money, but it does beg the question, what is the effectiveness? And that brings us to metric number 1. If we give X amount of money, how many people and for how long enjoy or get benefit from this money? Like, for example, we have 2 days, 10,000 people. Now, build a metric there. Or perhaps this is a club. Now, it's only 2 hours and 10 people, but it's twice a week for a year. Of course, it spans on a wider time scale. It's different. But these kinds of metrics provide some useful knowledge. Of course, we shouldn't work directly with the metrics. They are not the absolute answer, but they help decision making. Another part is, of course, target audience. We need to make sure that there are events for younger people, for seniors, for the youth, and all that. So building on what kind of people come there and what it's targeted at. This also provides a possibility to encourage. Now, there may be an event that brings in young adults, but it's in a scene or a theme that could bring children in as well. Perhaps it could be expanded upon. Another metric is it open for everyone? Is there no artificial stepping stone, shall we say, for anyone living in town? Now, this is, for example, ticket prices. I would say that free events for everyone are those that should be on the number 1 list for receiving public funding. I'm not saying it's impossible for someone having a ticket price to get public funding, but that should be one of the key metrics. Of course, it can be a hybrid. They may have some free activity and some that requires a ticket. You can find those kind of solutions. There may be, of course, some kind of boundaries that limit who it's targeted for, as long as they're not artificial stepping stones there. For example, you might have a program, a culture club for immigrants. The language might be, say, English, French, Arabic, whatnot. And of course, anyone not speaking that language couldn't really get anything done there. There may be a limited amount of positions, but they're not putting limits like, okay, you can't afford the ticket, you can't come. Another metric is not something you can really measure, but it's really important. It's a question I would like to pose to everyone asking for cultural funding. And it is, what kind of cooperation circles do you have? Now, let me get it to you from a little bit of a perspective. Now, there is the Tampere-Pirkanmaa Culture Capital Project 2026. I've been part of it, and among, I think it was the first or second meeting that we had years ago already, and we found out that there's a lot of warehouses in the region of Pirkanmaa that store items required for example, public events. Now there's like security vests, for example, various gates and fences needed, tents, PA equipment, speakers, microphones, smaller equipment, you know, coffee makers, thermos bottles, things like that. And in many cases, that stuff sits in the warehouse 350 days a year, if not more. If it's organized better, maybe just 300 days a year, but still, there's a lot of that sitting in storage. I know this very personally because I've been running a non-profit organization that borrows computer equipment to other non-profits running events, you know, laptops, network equipment, and stuff like that. For the previous year, it's oddly been that video streaming equipment is something that people have wanted to borrow. I wonder why. But that we can't advertise. Most of the places that have this kind of storage, they can't advertise. And I mean, that would be interfering with business, but it also costs something and they wouldn't have that kind of money. So I think the city, municipality could encourage cultural organizations to cooperate more, you know, invite them to, hey, you're asking for money, for example, for this equipment. Now, have you contacted those people, that organization there? Perhaps they could help you get that equipment and you could manage with a bit less money. Things like that. So encourage cooperation. That's one thing. And just asking about it is a very important way to learn more about how they're doing. Of course, when we have that tell us about cooperation, there's like this I button there and that tells, oh, we mean this by that, and you can perhaps improve upon this before applying by doing this, this, and that. Give information, play with open cards, and this also brings to the point. I'm going to simplify a lot here, but say there's a yearly event and it gets 10,000 a year. City of Tampere to organize that event. Now, one year they realized that, oh, they managed to do really well last year and they've cut on costs. So this year they could do with just 8,000. Now, if they apply for only 8,000, then next year it's lucky if they can get that 8,000. Maybe they'll be saying, oh, well, you're saving so much, probably you'll need just 6,000 this time. So you ask for more than you need because that's, well, I'm sorry, but that's just sometimes how it works. This is something that's been improved upon a lot over the past years, but it's something to keep your eyes on, because in some parts it still is a little bit of a problem. With these metrics and these thoughts, I'm hoping to expand on the whole discussion of culture. Generally, investing in culture is a good idea, but of course, in any investment, we must be sure that it's a wise investment. It is something that will bring back the money or save the money. There are direct and indirect gains. And I think we need to keep the culture very much alive here, interesting, and with the possibility of something new happening all the time. We have a lot of little activities here, and I'm also hoping that a lot of cultural organizations realize that we also have a lot of immigrants here in the city, and there's a lot more that could be done with them. I feel that, I mean, as someone who's worked in a lot of cultural organizations, we're still not doing enough to invite our new friends into this. I think we could do a little bit more. We're doing a bit, but perhaps with the city we could do more. And even in general, I think we need to talk more, build more bridges. Now, when there's a lack of money, some know that I'm a really big fan of idea contests, but in general, crowdsourcing challenges is something I like. So when we don't have enough money, let's talk to these cultural organizations, or when we have a challenge like the one I just posed you, let's talk together, city and cultural organizations working together and trying to find the answer instead of someone just dropping them from the top and this is what you're going to do. No, culture can't be defined. And it also shouldn't be just simple and pleasant and in your own zone. Now, let me speak to you from the heart. I am a capitalist, okay? Which means that probably when there will be, let's say, very leftist theater production there, they're going to tell how capitalism is ruining the world. And you probably think that I don't want to watch that, I don't want to support it in any way. You'd be wrong. If it's a great cultural production, I'm all thumbs up for it. Besides, I might learn something about myself there. I mean, culture has the permission and sometimes even the imperative to offend, to shake, to make you think, And I want there to be lots of kinds of culture. And if people go to it, that's the ultimate metric. If people go to it, see it, enjoy it, feel it, take part in it somehow, it's done its job. It's created feelings. I mean, that's what culture can do on its best day. So we need to, let's put it this way, let's stay on our toes and make sure that whatever culture is coming around the corner is something that's going to surprise us. Okay, from me and the chicks here, thank you for listening, and we'll be back.